Hi, my name is Blake Frazier, and I'm here with Sophie Blessing, who's deaf. And so, what's it like being deaf?
Well, there's a lot of positives and negatives for sure. I do have a cochlear implant, which is a hearing assistive device that, allows me to participate in the hearing world, but most of the time it has its advantages, but it's also set me apart in positive and negative ways. Like a positive example would be like for my college applications, it was really easy to speak on the issues that I faced with it because it's so personal, and it felt like it was easy to get, accepted into college that way, and getting a lot of scholarships too, just by talking about, like, it set me apart in the group. It's like a defining characteristic I have. Some negative ways it's impacted my life. I try to stay positive even in these situations, but in mostly elementary and middle school age, I was like picked on, not every day, but there would be a kid who would make some rude comments about it, and at that age even it's hard to comprehend emotions like that, so it took me a while to really accept the fact that I'm deaf. Like today I can talk about it and like not feel ashamed about it whatsoever, but yeah, that's what it's like being deaf.
What's it like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, usually when I wake up, I have to have an alarm that will literally physically shake the bed, because my implant will usually fall off while I'm sleeping. I'll take it off, so I usually wake up not hearing anything. I just wake up to a vibrating alarm. I wear it most of the day, but when I have to shower, I can't listen to any music in the shower because I can't have my implant on. It's not waterproof in the shower, so I feel like I'm missing out on that, because I feel like, kind of like listening to music in the car. Like, it's just a convenient time to stop and listen to music, but I don't have that privilege. I do notice that later in the day I'm like really mentally drained, because sometimes I forget how exhausting it is, and like how much I have to focus just to have a conversation with a person. Like I can literally be listening to the words that they're saying, but if I'm not thinking about what they're saying, then I'm lost in the conversation. Like I have to try 10 times harder than a normal person would to listen to a conversation. So at the end of the day, I'm wiped out and I'm exhausted. It's probably why I'm such a good texter, because I don't want to talk so much at the end of the day, and being able to physically read a text message is like, it saves me a lot of time and a lot of work. But at the end of the day, I'm usually really wiped out and exhausted just from trying to listen to everybody all day, and like I forget about it, but it really is a lot harder than you.
Like, are there certain limitations that you feel like you can't do besides just the shower situation?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I can't work in restaurants that are really loud. Like, I feel like I could never be like, a hostess, or even just a fast food drive-through person, like a person who speaks and like takes the orders and stuff. I feel like I would absolutely refuse to do that kind of job at this point, because like I know that I would struggle more than one time a day just during a shift, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that if I walked in a restaurant, where I'm working at, and I try to go take orders, and maybe I'm just not really super focused, I may have a hard time understanding what people are saying, like, especially since I rely so much on lip reading. And like the same applies for like being a drive-through person, because they have to wear those headsets, and oh my gosh, I can't even wear earbuds, because there's like the earbuds go into your ear canal, and then like that's where the sound is, but like it doesn't work that way with my ear, since I have the processor of, right. So like I couldn't be able to understand something like that. Like I feel like I would really struggle in those environments, because I can barely order something from a restaurant and like understand what my waitress is asking,
So do you feel like you find it hard to fit in sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like growing up and turning that age where you kind of realize like you care more about like what you look like especially middle school, right into high school. I felt like, I felt like I was kind of an outsider. Like I had a lot of good friends, but I felt like when it came to events like, homecoming, basketball games, football games, anywhere where it was just hard for me to participate in the conversations going on, I felt like really left out. And like it was hard to try and find my way around that, but I just kind of realized over time that like I just had to deal with it, like not be so hard on myself about it. Like I'm still doing really well, considering the fact that I am deaf. It's just like I just had to learn to be okay with it. So right during that time I was, caring about what other people thought about me so much, but I've learned to not care about that as much and just, be proud of mine.
And does being deaf affect your online schooling in any way?
Well, since I am a student at Ohio University, they've only let a small portion of the students live on campus, and so I had to live at home for the first semester and do everything virtually online. It is like really difficult, honestly, at most times, because I feel like sometimes I'll miss information in class because of the software we use, like Zoom, like doesn't have live captioning or anything. So I really like I said earlier about watching TV, it's kind of the same as like listening to someone talk on a screen. It's made it harder to kind of understand what's going on in class, but I usually am a pretty good self-advocate. I'll speak up if I'm like confused or whatever. But online schooling, it's definitely not my preference. I would rather be face-to-face, for instruction. So it's not my favorite, but I'm getting through it.
Does it affect playing sports? Because I know you played softball in high school.
Yes, for sure. I've had most of my barriers have come from playing sports alone. I played softball like my whole life. I played all 4 years of high school, but I did try tennis my sophomore year, and that was really hard because in tennis you have to keep the score between the two of you, 15 love, that type of stuff, and we're across the courts from each other. So oftentimes if I lost track, maybe I was just really in the game and just kind of lost track of the score, and the other girl was saying the score out loud, sometimes I would say it really soft and I would not be able to, I didn't know where we were at in the game, if I needed to play harder, if I was ahead, stuff like that. So that was a really hard barrier alone. And then when it came to softball, it was especially hard with the weather because springtime here in Ohio is miserable about 95% of the time. A lot of harsh winds, so when I would be playing in the game, the wind would blow right into my processor, and that's
all you would hear?
Yes, I would hear the wind blowing into my implant, and it's really hard to hear anything else when that's happening, and that would happen constantly. So sometimes I wouldn't know if an umpire called a strike or a ball, and I would get a lot of attitude from them about that because they would think that I come off as ignorant, stuff like that. So it made sports a lot more difficult. I had to try especially hard to listen and use all of my resources that I have, and that was probably one of my biggest challenges growing up, for sure.
So to end the show, how has being deaf affected driving in any way?
Okay, so this is more of what I'm worried about. Being I've driven for well over a year now, and I've not really had any issues, but I just worry about the possible scenarios that could happen. I'm worried that one day I'll be driving down the road and there's an ambulance coming, but I have no idea where it's coming from, because since I only have one cochlear implant, so I'm not bilateral.
You can only hear one direction.
Yes, essentially. So I can't tell where anything's coming from. If I closed my eyes and had someone, pick a position somewhere around me and, you know, I told them to say my name, I wouldn't be able to point in that direction where they're coming from. So I'm just worried that I won't be able to maybe notice if a police officer is pulling me over, and maybe I get in trouble because, you know, I was disobeying.
Might be
Yes,
resisting arrest.
right. So I'm sure that I just think of the worst case scenario when I'm imagining those situations, but there are, you know, a lot of situations that can still happen and it can be potentially dangerous. So I just have to be a lot more careful driving.